Hello, today we are going to see the basics of build and deployment process and how CI/CD DevOps fit into this entire scheme of things. First, let's look at build and deployment process, and from there we will see DevOps and CI/CD. Assume that we have few developers and they are developing certain set of code in any language, let it be Python, Java, or any Windows based. So they will be storing their code, source code, into a repository. Let's consider it is getting stored into a Git repository. Now what they need to do is they have to compile this code and make it into a pro application which can be run on servers. So as an end user, this source code is not of much importance for end user or a client. They need this in an application format. So that is something what we call it as artifactory. So it will next step is to create an artifactory. So example of an artifactory can be an exe file or a compiled Java file, class files, which can be run on a server. So how an artifactory is created in this case is through a build process. So here is where build process comes into picture, and here it is the source code and this is the developer. So now the artifactory is created. Now this artifactory cannot be directly sent to a server or a client basically, or an end user, because there might be some bugs for the first time. So this artifactory has to be deployed into a QA server, and certain set of people who will be doing the quality analysis, we call them QA. So they do a QA on this QA server, right? So once they identify some bugs in this server, they will be informing development team. They will look into the code and then make the changes, get it again deployed, copy to Git, and then through a build process, artifactory will be created and then again comes to the QA server, and QA guys keep on testing it. Finally, when QA is kind of comfortable with this build quality, they agree to move this code into a server called production, right? So this is where end users or a client start using it, right? So this is how build and a deployment process work in a very high level. Deployment process or build and deployment process have so many components and so much of manual efforts required. Developer has to check in the code into Git, and then he has to build this code, or a builder team has to build this code, create an artifactory, then it has to be deployed to a QA environment by deployment team or the developer itself, and then QA has to test it, and then again it has to be deployed into production. So there are so many manual interventions required. So this is the normal deployment, build and deployment process. Let's look into a CI/CD DevOps process. So by CI/CD, what we mean is continuous integration and continuous delivery. That is what is called as CI/CD in DevOps. So now let's look into, so in CI/CD process, we are going to check one important tool which is called as Jenkins, which is going to help us in this entire continuous integration and continuous deployment process. Let's look into the same scenario where developers are writing their code and then storing that particular code into a GitHub or Git or any repositories like ClearCase, and then it has to create an artifactory. So now where Jenkins come into picture. So what happens is that Jenkins is having, so Git is having a webhook and Jenkins is connected to Git, and whenever a developer writes their code and check into Git, Jenkins will be informed saying that a new change is arrived into Git, and Jenkins will be having its plugins. Say for example, if it is a PHP code or a Java code or a .NET code, Jenkins will have its own plugins, and Jenkins will initiate a build process, and the artifact will be stored in this artifactory server. And once this build is created successfully, or say for example for some reason password is wrong, source code cannot be downloaded and artifactory cannot be created. In that scenario, or for whatever reason a build is failing, then Jenkins will be knowing that this build was not successful, and then developers or Git team will be informed, and required changes are being made, and build will be recreated one more time till the build is successful. Or for another reason, if a bad code is checked in and build is failed, development team will be informed about this. Their code, rewrite their code and check in again. Now Jenkins get to know that new code is available in Git, new build will be automatically initiated. So that process is automated here. Now after Artifactory, it has to be deployed into a QA server, so that again QA again deployment will be automated by Jenkins. So once we know that Jenkins know that Artifactory is built properly, Jenkins will get to know, and automatically QA deployment will be initiated by Jenkins plugin, and it will be deployed into QA server. And what QA team would be doing, they might be doing a manual testing, or then they will be having something like Selenium or whatever their Selenium or any other QA automation tools run against this QA server and do the QA testing using this tool. That again can be done automated through Jenkins. Now this entire process will be handled by Jenkins. This entire process will be initiated by Jenkins, and it will also have the ability to test the status. Depending on the status, it will take necessary actions. Now QA is in case QA is failing, Jenkins get to know that this testing has been failed, and a developer will be informed as earlier. Jenkins will be automatically sending an email to the developers with the error codes and all other logs. Now again this entire cycle happens, and once QA passes, Jenkins knows that QA is successful, then it will automatically initiate a production build. Then end user will be able to start using this product in the production server. That's how this entire thing works. So now let's look into few things here. This is in this stage continuous. Here what happens is that there is a continuous check-in happens. From here to here there is a continuous build happens. From here to here continuous deployment happens in Jenkins. From here again continuous deployment happens. Here continuous testing is performed by Jenkins. So that is what is called as and this entire thing is called as continuous delivery to the production environment. So there is a continuous delivery happening in all the places. So that is what is that is actually called as CD part of this CI/CD. Now why it is called as continuous integration? Because each and every component, continuous build, continuous deploy, continuous testing, and continuous check-in, entire thing is being synchronized and integrated by Jenkins. That is why it is called as CI/CD DevOps process. This is the basics of CI/CD DevOps, and in next video we will be getting in deeper into the Jenkins, and we will configure Jenkins in a AWS server and see how we implement this entire process on a live server. Thank you for watching.